In this Adobe Illustrator tutorial, I want to show you how to make a set of scatter brushes that you can not only use to apply multiple copies of a piece of artwork, but also how to share that with other people. So I have this drawing here, and I want to turn this little mushroom character into a whole field of little dancing mushroom characters. Maybe this guy and this little guy here. So I have all my layers here, and I'm just going to click right there to find out what layer that piece is on. So I notice it's spots 1. So I'm going to hold my Option or Alt key, click on the eyeball so I can turn off all my other layers. And then I'm going to start to turn on the other layers surrounding that. So that's for the other mushroom. We'll get rid of that. Let me turn on all these. Got under the cap. Okay, it looks like these are the layers for this character. So what I want to do is turn this guy into an actual brush that I can scatter across the page. Now when I say scatter, that means there are going to be mushrooms like in a crowd, mushrooms in front of other characters. So you want to make sure that all your artwork has a nice, solid, white fill to it. Otherwise, it's like a character made of glass and you would see through it. So this artist, Vito, he did everything right. So I'm going to select everything here. And it looks like we got an extra little point. Let me delete that. There we go. I'm going to select everything here. And then I'm going to enable my brushes panel. Now I don't want to keep this character selected and accidentally click on a brush. So I'm going to click outside for a second and just pull this edge down. And I want to save this character on my brushes. So I'm going to select everything, drag everything over to the brushes, and I'm going to make him a scatter brush. Okay, it says it contains an element that cannot be used in a scatter brush. So the problem is I have a pattern right here, and this pattern cannot be used for brushes. So I'm going to go to my appearance panel. There he has this pattern, so I'll just trash that little pattern for now. Unfortunately, you can't have patterns within brushes, so we're just going to have to go with this white background for the mushroom top. But I'm going to select it again, drag it all over, and turn it into a scatter brush. Now, all I want to do at first, just to test this out, is keep everything the same here, but rotate my characters relative to the path or the line that I'm about to draw with my paintbrush. And I'll click OK. Now to test that, I don't want to ruin his artwork here, so I'm just going to come up, take my artboard, and just drag a big test artboard up here, just so I can have an extra blank area to practice painting with. And I'm going to click on his little mushroom character. So here is my brush. I want no fill when I go to paint with the brush. Brushes are strokes. And I'm just going to click and drag left and right. And they will pretty much line up in a row like that. Okay, but now that I have applied that brush, I'm going to double click my scatter brush here. And now I'm going to set everything to random. Every button to random. I'll make sure I turn on the preview. And now instead of them all being the same size, I want some of them. That was a pretty large mushroom character, so maybe the biggest one would be about 80% of that original character's size, and the smallest one over here might be about 25% of that size. A nice random mix. Then for the spacing, I don't want them all perfectly spaced apart. So I want some to be a little closer together and some to even be closer. So they really start to pack them in like that. I want some of them, like I said, I dragged my brush left and right. So I want some to go a little bit lower than the brush I dragged and some to jump a little bit higher. So they kind of go in an uneven fashion. And instead of them all being straight up and down, I might want some to lean a little bit to the right and maybe some a little bit to the left. So I get a nice little mix of them. Now remember, I used the brush before I made these changes. So when I click OK, I want to say apply to strokes. Now when I take my brush, if I drag from left to right, the way a brush is designed, they're going to go in that direction. Notice when I drag the opposite direction, they start showing upside down because I'm flipping the direction of my brush stroke. So I accidentally made that mistake. I don't want to do that. So if I was creating a field of these characters, I would start up here. And let's just click and drag like that. Notice they're all still pretty big. So what I'm going to do is select that and lower the point size, maybe to 0.5. Okay. Now I click outside. The next one will be 0.6. And I'll paint another line here, maybe 2 of them. Then I'll switch to 0.7. And as I go down the page, each brush stroke is going to get just a little bit thicker. 0.8, thicker brush stroke makes bigger mushroom characters. Then I'll go 0.9 and gradually, ever so slowly, increase the size of these brush tips. Now I'll make a 1-point stroke, paint right across there, and we'll do a 1.25 for the biggest guys up in front right here. Hopefully. Again, they're random. But now you can see some of them are further back, some of them get bigger as they come forward. And to really see if these are nice, solid, white characters, I'm going to take my rectangle tool, fill it with black, and just draw a large rectangle here. Object menu, arrange, send to back, and all those characters are going to jump off that page. Okay, so that's how these brushes work. Now the problem is, notice my brushes panel has that little mushroom character. But if I go to start a brand new file, and I'll just click OK, my brushes panel gets reset every time I start a new file. So the problem is, how do I use my mushroom brush, this little character, on other files when he keeps disappearing? Or how do I have my friend use it who lives in another state, when every time, even on my own computer, when I start a new file, it keeps disappearing? So what I can do is, once I've made a nice little set of brushes, I can click the pop-up in the upper right and go down to Save Brush Library. A library is a collection of items, just like a library is a collection of books. Now we have a collection of brushes. I'm about to save it as a brush file, and I will call this my CSUF mushroom brushes. I'll save it on my desktop, and I'll close up this file. Now let's just start a whole brand new file. File menu and new, 11 by 17, but the mushroom character disappeared. So what I can do now on this machine or at a friend's house or whatever, I can send them that little Illustrator file, that brush file, and on any computer, I can go to my brushes panel pop-up menu, open a brush library, and all this is going to give you is the list of brushes that come with Adobe Illustrator. I want another library, the one that I created. So now I can go to my desktop and dig through here, there's my CSUF brushes. It's really just a code file. And when I open that, there are my mushroom brushes. So now I can disregard these ones and start painting more mushroom characters like I wanted to. But I just got to remember to go from left to right, left to right. If I go the other way, they're going to go upside down. Okay, left to right, left to right, left to right. And I can fill that page with those mushroom characters, and anybody around the world could paint these little mushroom characters if I was to send them the Illustrator brush file. And from their brushes panel, they click the pop-up, open a brush library, and they want the other one where they can go wherever they saved it and open up the CSUF mushroom brushes. And that's how you can use objects and share them with all sorts of other artists. And you should charge them money too, especially when they really like your work. All right, there you go. Scatter brushes here in Adobe Illustrator.